All right, we're live and we're recording, so I'm ready to rock and roll if you are.
I'm good to go.
Okay. So Reagan and I want to jump on here this evening real quick. Obviously, we've been sending out some emails with a lot of updates and new information and resources that are coming down from both the ADA, from the Fed, and then from our corporate office to make sure that we're putting, resources in the hands of our clients as quickly as possible. One of the things we recently sent out was some offensive and defensive strategies for mitigating any losses and capitalizing on current opportunities, and then some future opportunities we're going to discuss a little bit. And then also making sure that we're positioned to rebound strong. I've also got a couple of additional webinars. One is tomorrow morning. I think the other one's Monday morning. We'll drop the information for that in the comment section so that you've got access to that. And then also Reagan and I are going to be doing another one of these tomorrow afternoon after the implant program that I'm doing about, all of the activities that we can be investing our time and energy in right now to be productive while we don't have the opportunity to see patients. And so what we wanted to do today was share some offensive and defensive strategies that, virtually any practice, and I would say this would apply to a lot of just regular small businesses that are, I think, very productive, very proactive, and beneficial ways to invest time and to position yourself so that we are able to, protect ourselves, protect our businesses, protect our employees and patients, and then also make sure that we're looking at this thing from an opportunistic standpoint and position ourselves so that we are able to capitalize on the opportunities as they present themselves. And so we're just going to run through these real quick. I don't think this is going to take us a lot of time, but just wanted to get this information out there. So Reagan, you want to handle one side of this and I'll take the other side, or how you want to handle this?
Yeah, I can do whichever. I know we're on the same page. So, if you want to lead us off with defense, and we can discuss offense, and then really what a rebound plan might look like. And some of the defense and offense options have changed since some of the trickle down, some of the other things have unfolded over the last couple of days. So yeah, I say let's just start running through the list, see what questions come up. I don't know if I'll be able to see those questions, but I'll go ahead and jump on to see if I can catch those as well.
If you can pull this up on Facebook, then you'll be able to see I've got the documents pulled up in front of me. If you can get your phone, you'll turn your volume down. If you'll get your phone and pull up the live feed, that way you can let us know any questions that come up in the comment section. And again, like she said, the challenge with a lot of this stuff is stuff is changing every day. Obviously the CARES Act, just went through the Senate yesterday, got passed unanimously in the Senate. That was a $2.2 trillion stimulus package. And there's certain allocations and certain ways that money can be spent, certain provisions that qualify you, don't qualify you, et cetera. And if you missed that, then you can check out our YouTube channel. I uploaded that video earlier today, or you can go back into, our Fortune Management Mid-South Facebook page, and that live video should still be in the feed. We ran through virtually every bit of that. So hopefully we answered all the questions there. And that's really the big challenge is, a lot of this stuff is changing as new information comes out, new resources unfold, and all this kind of stuff. What was a great idea 3 days ago might not be the best plan of action now. And so based on the information as it stands right now, and the current state of affairs, some defensive options that we're recommending. And a lot of these you may be familiar with, some of these you may not, but obviously we want to make sure that all employees have the opportunity to file for unemployment on a temporary layoff. And so that they got access to unemployment benefits, at least until this SBA program launches. You're able to get funds through your SBA lender, or through the us.tn.gov website, I think, and get SBA funds, in which case then you'll be able to, compensate employees at their standard fee. And there's some details about that in the video we did this morning. So please check that out. All practice owners to file for the SBA disaster relief loan. That's very, very important. That money's not going to be there forever, right? There's only so much money that is available for this program, and there's a lot of small businesses out there. So we need to be very proactive about this and go ahead and file now and not delay this, because there is a chance that you go to get money from this program and that money's no longer available. Another thing is to make sure you contact all your lenders and credit card companies, suspend payments for the purposes of preservation of cash, to make sure that you've got cash on hand. Landlords, tenants, make sure you contact them to check on the possibility of suspending rent and mortgage payments. Obviously, check with your insurance carrier on interruption of business insurance. From the feedback that I'm getting from a lot of folks, in most cases, or in a lot of cases, not most cases, your overhead insurance or your interruption of business insurance requires physical property damage, is the feedback that I'm getting from a lot of folks. So depending on what your policy is, you may have access to that due to a scenario like, this pandemic, or it may only apply in the event that you have physical property damage. So anybody that's ever been victim of a flood or a tornado or something like that, and your, facility was damaged. I had a client who had black mold. And they had to, shut down for 3 or 4 days while they got that stuff fixed. And his interruption of business insurance picked up and compensated him for the down period and the losses that they incurred due to not being able to be open. And that was classified as physical property damage. So some policies will cover that in the event of a pandemic situation like we're in. Some will require physical property damage. So just check with your insurance carrier and get the details on that. If the doctor is an employee of the practice, so for example, some doctors, take I'd say most accountants would recommend that we allocate a certain amount of funds as a salary. And I don't know if they would have you do that through a W-2 or a 1099, but if you're paying yourself, or 1099, but if you're paying yourself as an employee of the practice, and you're on a W-2, so you've got, Reagan Hartman Dental Practice Incorporated, then you've got Reagan Hartman DDS associate being compensated from the corporation as an employee of the corporation, then you could very well be eligible for unemployment benefits. So in the event that you fall into that category, I would certainly look into filing for unemployment myself if I'm the owner doctor. Here's a big one, and that is one of the things that is possible is that, with the government encouraging lenders to, continue to lend and continue to provide loans and a lot of those kinds of things. We don't want to run the risk of, not being able to access line of credits that we currently have available because resources and assets are being shifted in different directions. So if you've got a line of credit, a business line of credit or a personal line of credit, I would go ahead and take that money and put it in my checking account so that it's available for immediate use. And then in the event that you don't need the money, just put it back and no harm, no foul. You're not, depending on the period of time, even if you incurred an interest expense on that, it's going to be minimal. But at least that money is available, it's liquid, and it's there to be used in the event that you need it. Obviously, we've got the tax delay, so we're not paying any on taxes. And then here's a big one, and this is one I took advantage of yesterday. I'm still going through the administrative process of this, but this is a great opportunity to consolidate debt. It's a great opportunity to refinance mortgages. This actually should probably be on the offensive side, not the defensive side. But I mean, I went from, I'm going to save roughly 60 grand on my mortgage, because I'm refinancing from a 20-year at 4.5% to a 15-year at 2.6. And so that's going to save me about 60 grand. And it knocked my mortgage payment down about $200 a month. So I was actually looking to see if they had one that was even shorter, a 10-year mortgage where I could get even lower interest. But they don't have anything like that available. So that's definitely something that you want to check into. And I think that the sooner you check into those things, the better off you're going to be, because the Fed did drop the interest rate down to 0, but that was a very temporary thing, and it's no longer there. It's already starting to move back up. So we want to take the opportunity to be proactive, and look at the opportunistic side of this as well. Reagan, what offensive strategies do you think are appropriate at the moment?
Well, if I can speak to just a couple of things on the defensive plan, any team members that are watching or employees that were recently laid off or currently in limbo, waiting on the SBA to go through, wherever you are, some of these strategies that John is talking about, they apply to you too. So if there's an opportunity for you to draw on a line of credit at your bank, do that and put it in your checking account. If it turns out you don't need it, your doctor gets approved for the SBA, you're put back on the payroll. Now you continue to have money coming in, that immediately pay it back off. But there's no reason why a team member couldn't take advantage of these strategies too. So I want to make certain that you guys are thinking in terms of, you are CEO of You Inc., right? So whether you were previously employed, now unemployed, if you were self-employed, 1099, I mean, you're CEO of You Inc. and CEO of your household. And some of these strategies we would certainly encourage you to take advantage of as well.
Mm-hmm. And also the hygienist that could potentially watch this, if you're being paid as an independent contractor on a 1099, the SBA program that's coming out, it does have provisions in it that make you eligible for SBA loans to cover your payroll that was missed during the period of time that this was shut down, and that will be a deferred payment for 6 months. So basically, you can get compensation that essentially the way it would work is you would get the compensation that you were missed for the past 2 weeks and the 6 weeks moving forward, and that would be an interest-free, payment-free. You would never pay anything for that. It's going to be forgiven. The first 8 weeks will be forgiven. Granted, this thing's behind us 8 weeks from now, but the first 8 weeks will be forgiven. The payment is deferred for 6 months. So most likely you can take the loan and it'll never cost you a dime. Okay. So that's an opportunity that's going to be available for the 1099 folks, including the associate dentists that are paid on 1099.
And that was one of the things that you and Lee discussed during the broadcast this morning, right? Some of those particulars. And so just check with your attorneys and check with your accountants, as these guys are the ones that really stay on top of the number crunching and what the Fed needs, what the IRS needs. So make certain you're checking in with them to make sure that they're staying on top of all of these developments and helping you navigate some of those waters as well, just given what they know about your personal situation. So those are kind of defensive options. When we say defensive options, what we really mean is ways to defend your business, right? Against catastrophe, ways to defend your business. It's kind of like if you go back to Wealth Mastery, those of you that attended a couple of months ago, when we look at the 6 financial distinctions, the very first one is protection. Right? That is our defensive option. Right now, we need protection for the business because its number one responsibility is to provide jobs. Second responsibility is to make sure that it creates opportunities for growth and learning for its employees and serves its patients well. So that's what we mean by defensive options. Yeah. Now let's talk about offensive options, because as John said, with every crisis comes opportunity. And with every downside, there is always an upside. Those things exist at the same time. So while we're seeing kind of panic out there, there are also lots of areas of opportunity. One being, and John will attest to this as well, we complain all the time about not having time to work on the business, but only work in the business. We've just been mandated a gift of time. So now is the time to invest in rebuilding certain things within your office, particularly when you file for the SBA and you put your employees back on payroll that's going to cover them for the next 8 to 12 weeks. We all know that most of you are not opening prior to April 6th, if not April 13th or thereafter. And again, that's kind of a moving target. So when we think about offense, think about all the things, all of the busy work, and John and I are going to cover a lot of this tomorrow, but a lot of the things we never get around to doing. So one offensive strategy, number one, is that dental offices can make themselves available for emergency care. And so make certain that you have team members identified for who's going to work when, should an emergency call come in. Right? And the ADA has mapped out specific guidelines for what constitutes an emergency, but figure out which team members are going to be quote unquote on call when to be able to handle those emergencies. Straighten that out in advance. If we don't need it, great, but at least it's there and we're not dancing in traffic on top of everything else that's really moving and shifting.
HR for Health, before we go to the next one, HR for Health also sent out some employee consent forms and patient consent forms in the event that employees are in the practice seeing emergency patients or patients are being seen as an emergency. If you haven't received those, I don't know if you can go to the HR for Health website and get those. If they just send them out to everybody, if they're available through their social media. If you don't have access to that and you want those forms, rather than recreating the wheel, right? Don't spend an hour typing one up from scratch. Just send us an email or DM us through Facebook. or whatever, and we'll get that information over to you. And then also, before we go any deeper into the offensive, I did want to circle back to an item that came up on the defensive side. And it was, oh, what did it pertain to? I hope I don't draw a blank here. Obviously, all of the deferment of payments and mortgages and all that kind of stuff, that's just as applicable to the employees of the practice as it is the business owners. Oh man, go ahead. I'm drawing a blank. Oh, it was a question that came up in the comments after our event this morning had closed, and it was employees, for example. The question I think was how did that come up? Shoot. I tell you what, I'm going to need to.
Was that about what do we do if the SBA goes through and we filed for unemployment? Was it that question?
It was part of that. Let me pull it up. It just popped into my head as you were starting, and I need to go back and pull that up because it was a great question. And basically what she was asking is if she receives income. So obviously if you file for unemployment and then you go into the practice and you get compensated for something, you're reporting your income each week. So when you report your income for the previous week, that's going to affect your unemployment benefit for the next week, right? So if you made X dollars, then it's going to be decreased by X dollars. Okay. So that's an important consideration. When this SBA stimulus package goes through and you receive your full compensation, then you'll report your full compensation and you won't receive any unemployment benefit the following week because you were paid in full your full pay. And then what was the other part of that? Go ahead with the defensive, and I'm going to look through this and see if I can find the question. I don't want to hold this up here.
Okay. So other offensive strategies. Now, again, you have to shift your mindset from crisis mode to rebuilding mode. Okay. So the crisis is we're on the tail end of the crisis. That's how we need to perceive it. Now we need to look at how to position ourselves and take offensive strategies. So one of those is teledentistry. Now, this is very new, but there are a couple of codes that have already been approved, and it has to do with helping patients, taking emergency calls, doing consults over the phone with patients while we're during the shutdown. Now, granted, the dollars coming in from that for the practice are not very significant, but they are something. And so just making yourself available to provide whatever care you can and looking at the teledentistry as an option, not just now while we're going through this landscape, but also to position yourself for the future. Because how great would it be? One of my clients and I were talking about this morning, that it's something he wanted to incorporate into his business model anyway, so that they could do implant consults and Invisalign consults virtually without taking up a chair in the office. So teledentistry will probably continue to get a little bit bigger. It's already present in medicine for those of you that are aware. So explore what your options are there, what companies you can kind of take this through instead of recreate the wheel, but that is an option. One of the other things that we would highly encourage you guys to invest your time in, particularly the doctors and the hygienists, but certainly the team members can be involved in this as well. And that is during this time, knowing that your patients are going through this same sense of uncertainty and not knowing what the future holds, now is a great time to reach out to your patients just to check on them. Mm-hmm. How are they doing? Are they feeling well? How are they doing emotionally? Are they, what can you guys be for them during this moment? How can you show up and really serve them, even if it's just being present and checking in on them and just letting them know that you're available? I mean, what a great way to continue to, build that familiar relationship with the patients that you have. And since we never have time to do it, Now we've been given the time, so take advantage of it. Invest in yourself during this time. Invest in your own learning, whether it's, catching a few podcasts on leadership, or maybe reading books on how to navigate uncertain times, or how to develop fitness and resilience and, emotional fitness. All of those things matter when it comes to you being the leader and you needing to reinstill certainty within your team or your patients. And when I say leader, I'm not just talking about the doctor, but talking about team members too. I mean, now's a great time to invest in your own personal and professional development to make you stronger for a rebound, kind of like you're in training right now for the Olympics when you get back. So invest in those things. Ship an OraCare box, and a box of OraCare, as most of you know, if you're clients of ours, you know that it is an antiviral rinse that now, from what I understood from Jennifer the other day, they currently got it in testing to see if it actually fights COVID-19. However, as a precautionary or preventative step, and really just to continue to build that relationship with patients, ship them a box of OraCare just for their at-home care while they're unable to come in and get their dentistry done and or get their hygiene done. Collect any of you that have, and I know most of our clients don't have a substantial amount in outstanding insurance, but many of them do. And so now is a great time to catch up on all of those claims. Go back and clean them up and get them refiled so that that can serve as some cash coming in the door while you can't be producing more cash in the couple of weeks ahead. So just know there are monies out there to be collected. Now, that being said, John and I discussed this the other day. I would not at this point reach out to patients to collect their balances. And the reason for that is very simple. Number one, most people are scared. Many have been laid off and are currently unemployed. And to go after the few dollars that they may have right now, I do not believe is ethical or moral. And I think it would do more to damage the relationship than it would be to nurture it. So let's go after the insurance dollars that for the most part have been owed to you for 30 days or longer. And let's give our patients an opportunity to breathe and to get themselves together. And then we can reconnect with them on that front once the certainty in the marketplace has returned. John, do you agree with that, by the way?
Well, I was actually going to say that. If you didn't say that, I was going to say that. And this just occurred to me. I almost like the idea of doing like a practice stimulus package, where you basically provide some kind of a, maybe, and I haven't even thought this through. I'm just thinking out loud here. But maybe we put like a credit on the patient's account and send a text message or email to them through Revenue Well saying, hey, we know this is a difficult time. We know people are worried about money. If we can do something, we want to do something. And this is just an effort on our part to help make this time a little bit easier for you, and then provide some kind of maybe a $50 credit or $100 credit.
Yeah, that might be we might need to talk through that program, but I thought about that too. Yeah. Even something for the essential people who have not had a break and have probably had more demand on them in the past couple of weeks, the ladies at the grocery store or the guys working at Costco and Sam's and the nurses and the doctors who have been on call nonstop since this started. They're going to need a little bit of a refresher once all of this comes back. So I think just thinking about ways to show your goodwill to everyone universally, because we're all going to need to see, with all the fear and panic that everyone has tried to process over the last couple of weeks. I mean, for the vast majority, I think what better gift than to just reinstill that sense of humanity and certainty and service and care and love and all of those things. So just be mindful of those strategies as you move forward.
Yeah. And if you're using a couple things real quick, if you're using High Five, they've got, let's say you've got Olive in your practice. I'm a big fan of videography. I think it's 10 times more effective. I know it's 10 times more effective than just a standard text message or email. Do some sympathetic, just basically, situational videos from the doctor and from the team. Do 4 or 5 different versions of them and send 1 or 2 out each week just to let your patients get it on their phone. They pull their phone up and it's a video from Susie at the front desk. It just said, hey, we're just touching base with you. We're thinking about you. Hope you're safe and healthy. please let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Just that simple, 60 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that goes a
Put
long way.
funny stuff out there. Everyone needs to laugh right now. So put together some funny content and blast it out to your patients. Just give them something to laugh about, to take lightheartedly, you know, because people have been under so much stress. And most of you know, when our stress levels go up, our immunity goes down. So it makes us even more susceptible to anything that might be lurking out there. So look at building some humorous content along with just your empathetic reach out content for those people that you've been serving for the past 10 plus years.
Right.
John and I were also talking the other day about the fact that, again, in every crisis, there is opportunity. And what that means is right now, money is cheap. Refinancing things is great. Looking at your lines of credit. And what I love about the stimulus package is that, because I was curious, and I don't know if John, you were with me when, if it was you I was talking to about this, but I got to thinking when they were originally talking about a $6 trillion stimulus package and where all the money was going. I don't know if you felt this way, but in my mind, I was thinking, how in the world could the government shoulder all of it? Right? How in the world could they shoulder the businesses? Could they shoulder the employees? And could they shoulder themselves while stopping all streams of revenue coming in? And so I actually like the way the new bill was structured for the most part, in that they're giving this leniency to small businesses to keep their employees employed at their normal rate. So they're still spending the same so that the housing market doesn't crash, and it still later will be forgiven. So it's like a free loan you don't have to pay back, just to incentivize you to take care of your people. I loved that. Honestly,
apparently they did such a good job constructing that bill that Congress earned themselves a raise.
Like I said, I don't necessarily have to like all parts of it, but that part I do like.
Yeah.
So that being said, do you want to talk about the rebound plan? Those are offensive measures. We've talked about the defensive measures, how to protect yourself as a business owner, as an employee, as a contractor. We've talked about offensive measures. So kind of how to prepare for a comeback. You know, what can you do right now? What's available to you in the marketplace so that you don't take too big of a hit? What options are available to you as team members so that this financial quote unquote crisis doesn't hit your home as hard? So now let's talk about a rebound plan. And this is primarily for the business owners themselves. But let's talk about some of the rebound action plans. And by rebound, what we mean is looking at your business 3 weeks out. Okay, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, whatever your time frame is for your start back. Go ahead and start looking at the weeks ahead after you start back, and consider what would have to be made up within your practice your first 3 weeks back in order to compensate for the potential losses you suffered during the shutdown. So this is where we begin to reevaluate your templates for how you engineer your time. Start to look at additional days you might want to build back in to make up for the lost days. Because again, regardless of how big or small your practice is, we have the balance of the year to make up what was lost during this downtime. But the truth of the matter is that if we plan for a strong comeback, that's exactly what we can experience. So reevaluate your template. Look at how your days need to be engineered once you start back so that you can make that up and really not miss a beat moving forward. Now, John and I have some specific recommendations relative to who you want to focus on, what's going to give you the best opportunity to have your days booked solidly and productively upon your reopen date. But definitely look at those things. Shannon Richkowski did a webinar just the other day on ghost scheduling your hygiene department, which is really about, and John and I have been kind of coaching our teams on this for a while, but it's really about having your hygienist look out and predict their open time based on either history. So maybe I have 5% open time, 20% overtime when you add in the cancellations, the no-shows, broken appointments. Look at what the previous Okay, what the past has told us about typical downtime, and go ahead and plan insurance for that. And by insurance, what she meant was creating a ghost column in your schedule where you create overflow. So it's almost a form of overbooking to accommodate for attrition same day. And I think we'd be naive not to know that we will see some attrition in the weeks that we bounce back.
Yeah, and
Right?
it's very strategic, and it's very controlled, and it's managed. So it's not just double book. You hear double booking, everybody throws up a red flag. It's not just double booking. I will put a link to the video that Shannon Richkowski did in the comments to this video. And I'm also doing the same interview, the same presentation with Brooke Middleton, who's a hygiene mastery coach. And she, runs a hygiene department over in South Carolina. This guy, I think they said like 8 or 9 rooms of hygiene, and they've been utilizing ghost columns for a long time, and they have phenomenal success with it. So just look at on the Fortune Management Mid-South Facebook page, check the events section, and I'll be doing that event live with her next week. And so I want a couple of additional things there. I would say plan for the worst, hope for the best. So I would anticipate an increase in attrition in your hygiene schedule coming back. I think once we get back up and running, there's still going to be some uncertainty. There's still going to be some financial, stuff lingering out there. And so I would plan for, a slight increase, maybe 10 to 15% increase in your attrition, and then utilize ghost columns to compensate and protect your hygiene schedule from that. And then also all of the restorative dentistry that was supposed to get done last week, this week, and the next few weeks, that's all still there. So when we come back and your doctor's, in there 8 hours a day, you should have more than enough dentistry from patients that want to get it done right now to maximize that doctor's productivity for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. And we're 7 days in. For
Right.
some people, it's 6 days into this quarantine. We've got, 7 to 8 more to go. And I'm already ready to jump out of my skin and to go do something. Like, I want to see my hairdresser. Do you see this? Do you see this? I need to see my hairdresser, and I can't. So it's kind of like, I think people are going to be itching to get back out and to get caught up on the things that they couldn't do during this shutdown. So I think expect for that, but also expect for, kind of plan for if there is attrition, because there's still fear in the marketplace, then how do we create insurance for that?
Yeah, I love these memes. I love these memes that are coming out. There was one with a lady, and she was in the bathroom, and her hair was wet. She just got out of the shower. She was in a towel, and she was asking her husband for the hair dryer. And she couldn't see because her hair was wet and everything. And she was reaching for the hair dryer, and he handed her a gun.
That's me.
And it said like day 7 of quarantine.
I had to fight the urge to buy a box of that do-it-yourself. That do-it-yourself picture roots. But
Yeah.
seriously, Dee Dee, if you're watching, I got to see you soon.
Yeah. But it seems to be the exact opposite for me, man, because I'm used to sleeping in my bed 1 or 2 days a week. I travel so much, and now I've been in the office. I'm a little stir crazy, but I'm like, dude, I got to do something with this time. And so I've been doing a ton of these things, and I've been doing a lot of projects and a lot of just a lot of continuing education and reading and stuff for myself. But I'm like, man, this is nice to be home. I'm never home. And I'm kind of.
Yeah, well, going into this, I thought the same thing until I realized that, oh crap, I don't have childcare right now. I don't have support with the laundry and the dishes and picking up the messes in the house. And I'm still working my normal schedule except for my travel. And we've got all of these other emails and phone calls coming in because, we're trying to navigate these waters. And so it's been like, bless it. I feel for all the working, stay at home, nanny, housekeeping moms right now. I'm with you. I'm with you.
That was another one I saw. It said, I think a day or so ago, I saw one that came out and said, some of y'all about to find out it ain't the teacher and it ain't the school.
Exactly. So anyway, Other aspects of the rebound plan, and this is something that we do teach our clients in Fortune, and I think it's really valuable. It should be part of your offensive plan, but absolutely part of your rebound plan. And that is, as you are doing all of this redesigning of your template and, re-examining and planning for certain attrition and ghost scheduling, as you guys are doing all of those things, make certain you're limiting like 80 to 90% of what we call your programming, meaning what you watch, what you're listening to, what you're really pouring into your psychology and your emotions, because it filters and affects every decision that you make. And when people are fearful and in crisis, they don't always make great decisions. Right? When people are desperate, they don't always make good decisions. And so really be mindful of the psychology that you could be investing in building right now, and limit at least first thing in the morning. I was talking to a client earlier about this. Limit at least first thing in the morning, whether you're a team member or doctor, limit your morning programming to something uplifting, inspirational, funny, motivating, whatever, just something other than the gloom and doom that you're going to get through the news, just so you have a prettier framework or a more beautiful framework around how you're going to see the day ahead. Okay. So really important. And if you want more direction on that, you can reach out to John or myself. Self-care and making sure that you're taking enough vitamin C. Sometimes it's 4 to 5 times what you normally would take. Taking your vitamin C, your vitamin D, your B complex. There are some things that Dr. Lawson mentioned earlier in the week that you need to be taking just to kind of keep your immune system healthy, keep you guarded. Run On Guard essential oils throughout your home and the rooms that you spend the most time in. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing is that the overriding theme to a rebound is to believe that the rebound is going to happen. Listen, we've been through world wars. We've been through in our lifetime, and John, by our, I mean mine and yours, we've been through wars. We've been through the dot-com boom. We've been through, the housing market crash. We've been through the recession of 2008. We've been through a lot of us have been through a lot harder times than what we see right now. And just because the overriding, messaging that's out there is how bad and dangerous and awful it is, it's not all that bad. And for those of you that are worried about the unemployment rate, listen, there are a lot of people that currently are still employed. They still have jobs. They still have insurance.
I got my dryer fixed today.
Do what? I'm sorry?
I got my dryer fixed today. It's been down for like 2 months. I almost forgot what it felt like to put on a tight, dry, warm t-shirt.
Yeah. So the thing is, there's still a lot of employment, right? Not everyone is unemployed. There's still a lot of employment. And so don't make it worse than it is, and be able to see it a little bit better than it is and plan for the better. Be prepared for if it doesn't go that way, but plan for the absolute best opportunity. And what quantum physics says is that whatever you expect is what you tend to experience. So start looking at and planning for what you would like to expect when all of this is said and done.
Yeah. I would circle back real quick. A couple of things I want to make sure that we touch base on. We haven't talked about one of these, and I think this might be a good discussion for us to have right now. But one of them is, there are some doctors out there, some of our clients out there were in a position where they were able to just pay employees for the next 2 or 3 weeks. They had the financial reserves to do that. And then other practices were not in a position to do that. Right. And so it's not, if you're an employee of a practice or a business for that matter, and your business was not in a position to provide that for you, it's not anybody's fault. It's not somebody messed up, somebody didn't do anything wrong. It is just the business did not have the financial reserves to provide, just didn't plan far enough ahead, or didn't have the financial reserves for a variety of different reasons in order to have that benefit. And that's what that is. That's a benefit. The business is shut down and there's still payroll available to distribute to employees. That is a benefit. Okay. That's called paid time off. Okay. So if this question came up with one of my clients today, because she says, well, I think I've got enough to do this. Okay. Well, you brought this up earlier when you said financial security in session 5. If the business doesn't have at least 3 months worth of revenue sitting in an account that is liquid and available to cover fixed expenses for at least 3 months, I would say you're probably not in a position to do that. And the reason for that is because we can't burn through that financial reserve and run the risk of our employees not having a practice to come back to, or patients not having a practice to come back to. So we've got to preserve the interest of the practice itself first, and then worry about the details after that. And so this is one of the things that I would say this is basically how we instruct our clients to protect themselves. It's called financial protection, right? So we do the same thing on the personal side that we do on the professional side. 3 to 6 months of living expenses set aside, available for in the event that you run out of income, or that you don't get income. So in order to do that, there's a certain level of revenue that needs to be produced. We need to be able to control certain controllable expenses. And so when we talk about BAM and bonus, and we set goals, and we talk about scheduling to goal and hygiene reactivation and treatment reactivation, those things are necessary in order to produce certain levels of bonus, but those things are also necessary to create that financial reserve that's going to be available to protect you at times like this. So hopefully for a lot of people, the experience that we're having right now, maybe this is the reason why we need, in order to make those things a higher priority in some scenarios. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the benefits of the bonus program. It is to create that financial protection and financial security. And even if you haven't gotten to that level yet, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you to begin building that once the practice doors open back up. Now, we did get a question from Laura. Hey, girl, long time no see. From Laura, and she said, hey, John and Reagan, will you be discussing ideas for how to handle a hygiene schedule 6 months from now when we have lots of open time and not having patients during this current time? So this actually came up earlier this week on another coaching call, and I'm glad you brought it up, Laura, because when we do get back in action, one of the things I think we need to consider is the fact that just like when we go on vacation or the practice shuts down to go to a dental association trip, what you will see is that 6 months, maybe 6 months and 2 weeks from that period, we have all of these hygiene openings because we weren't seeing patients. So the moment the doors are back open, our hygiene reactivation efforts should be focused on making certain that those weeks, when are those weeks? It's like August, September, that those weeks are filled well in advance. And if you guys are tracking your hygiene 6 weeks out, then you'll be able to see it 4 weeks ahead of time. But I would go ahead and start planning around that the moment that you're back. Mm-hmm. Great question.
Yep. And and just a caveat to that, Laura, if you weren't on the call when we talked about this earlier, I'm going to be dropping a link to a YouTube video Shannon Richkowski, who is the director of Hygiene Mastery, did on ghost columns and managing attrition and the patients that we're having to move now. Where do we put them? Ghost columns is a great strategy to do that. I'll drop the link in the comment section of this video. And I'm also doing a live video with Brooke Middleton, who's another Hygiene Mastery coach, next Thursday, I believe. So check that out.
Yeah. So I think generally speaking, those of you who are on Dental Intel, if you haven't watched their webinar, and most of you kind of know about their patient finder, which lets you sort and filter different lists so that you know who's the highest priority to call, and and when should we call this patient to get them back in for treatment or hygiene. So one of the things that Dental Intel has created within their platform is they've already set or preset a few filters so that when you are back open, they have pre-built a list of what they deem qualified patients to reach out to, that you have the highest probability of getting back on your schedule, and patients who have a low no-show rate or a low cancellation rate. They're loyal patients. They show up, they keep their appointments, they trust our team, they give us feedback. So they've created certain parameters in there so that whether your team comes back before your office opens, given the SBA loan and putting them back on payroll, but during that time can still be invested. And I would use that patient finder option within Dental Intel to create a very targeted list of people to reach out to. And again, I'll remind you, not everyone is unemployed.
Right.
So there are still many industries that are considered essential, and these people are still working, and they probably need someone to reach out to them the moment the shutdown is over, because they're probably going to need care more so than anyone else, given the weeks that they've had. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and then a couple of one more thing, and then we'll wrap this up. I would go ahead and calculate what your baseline production and collection have been for, say, the previous 12 months, and get like a monthly average, um, and an average on your expenses as well. That way, you know how much revenue you're generating on a monthly basis. You know what your average expenses are on a monthly basis, what your profitability is on a monthly basis. And then based on what our revenue is for March and what you project your revenue to be for April, May, and June, and I would do these projections out to June, so that'd be the first half of the year. Go ahead and do like a pro forma. Go ahead and do some projections to say, this is how far below break even I anticipate being this month, the next month, the next month. So that gives you an idea of when you can start bringing some of the expenses that you backed out of, or if you dropped a service, or if you turn something off, that gives you an idea of when you can start to turn that back on. Obviously, identify any revenue generating opportunities like products, product enrollment, OraCare, teledentistry, if you want to explore that. And then obviously, we talked about the offensive side and the defensive side on generating additional revenue and cutting and reducing expenses as much as possible. I would also go ahead and pull your 2019 employee salary wages report. And because this information, when this bill has passed through the Senate, if it goes through the House, then we're going to have, this thing's going to be in effect probably within, I don't know, what Lee say, about 15 days, I think you said. And so we're going to need this. They're going to need this information, and you're going to need this information for, the SBA loans and all that kind of stuff. But go ahead and get your wages report. Look at hourly and salary gross wages. That needs to include your 401k match. That needs to include health insurance. That needs to include any 1099 compensation for associates. It needs to include PTO, vacation, and sick pay. And it needs to include the owner doctor if they are paid as an employee out of the practice. Okay, so I'd go ahead and have that information readily available. Your employees are going to need that information too. Probably need that information now in order to file for unemployment, to provide them their wages information in order to determine what their benefit's going to be. And then lastly, I want to make you guys aware of these two things, and I'll drop the links to these in the comments to this video. HR for Health is doing a video March 30th. When is that? Monday, March 30th.
Monday.
At 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. They're going to be doing an update on the FMLA. They're going to be doing an update on the CARES Act and what you need to know from an employee perspective. And then we're going to be doing a follow-up video with Lee, probably middle of next week, and probably middle of each week moving forward until we're through this thing, just so everybody stays on top of the changes in legislation and what you need to know from a practice owner and a tax standpoint. And then also Mark Murphy with Northeast Private Client Group is doing a video tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That would be 11 Central, 12 Eastern. And I told you wrong on the HR for Health video webinar. That's also 11 o'clock Central Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 a.m. Eastern Time. That's on Monday, March 30th, HR for Health. And then tomorrow morning is Mark Murphy with Sequoia Northeast Private Client Group at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah. And as we close out, I just kind of want to extend an invitation to all of the team members that we work with. I know there's several practices across the Southeast, but given that many of you recently came through Wealth Mastery, and we still had several of you that missed it just a couple of months ago, any team members who would like some direction on what you need to be doing just to navigate your current financial situation, or what, how to cut expenses, how to trim the fat, just kind of going back to some of those basics, I want to encourage you guys to reach out to John or myself or any one of our coaches and get some direct guidance on what you might need to do in your particular circumstance. And I wanted to give a huge shout out to our clients here in the Southeast, because I didn't have not one client when all of this happened. And this is really a message to the team members to let you know what amazing people you work for. But as soon as all of this took place, the number one question every single client asked me was, how am I going to take care of my people?
Mm-hmm.
And so their number one priority, none of them went into self-serving mode. None of them went into, how am I going to pay my bills? They all first went to, how do I take care of my people?
Right.
And I just want to acknowledge all of them for that, because a lot of people were scrambling to take care of themselves. And just the fact that you guys started from that place and you put yourselves lower on the totem pole, and you really looked for how to take care of your team and how to make sure they were cared for. It just really speaks to the caliber of people we get to work with. So I just wanted to give a big acknowledgement to those guys.
Yeah. Leaders eat last.
Yeah.
Yep. I had the same experience. Good. So I think we got a lot of good information out there. Guys, if you've got any questions, or if there's anything in particular you want us to cover, if we don't have the answer, I'll find somebody that's got the answer. I'll force them to get on here with me. We'll do an FAQ with them. So our goal with these is, well, twofold really. A, to give us something to focus on besides all the COVID stuff that's going on, because there's more than enough of that stuff out there. And I personally am not enjoying the negative Facebook feed. I know it's real. I know it's there. It's a fact. It's reality. And let's move on. Okay. So,
and again, some of the highlights from this, there are going to be numerous opportunities for additional mergers and acquisitions when this is all said and done. You are not going to have any issue with choice in the marketplace. If you had team members who had to go look for employment elsewhere, I think the job market's really going to be flooded over the next few weeks. And so what that means is, if you are looking to hire new employees to continue to expand your team, there's going to be numerous opportunities there. And so I think housing markets are going to stabilize, meaning it's going to be a buyer's market, just like in the mergers and acquisitions. When it comes to home buying, it's going to be a buyer's market before too much longer. So just know there's a lot of good stuff coming. And even though it still feels a little bit uncertain right now, it will still bounce back. It always does. But if you guys need any support from John or myself or any of our coaches, then just know you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can email us directly. And many of you have our cell phone numbers. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we're happy to support.
Yeah. And I want to comment on that last thing really quick. And that is, this is not about capitalizing on somebody else's misfortune.
Not at all.
It's not about taking advantage of somebody else's, downside. It is about some practices are just were not in the financial position to withstand this storm, and it's going to be a little bit too severe for them. The winds are going to be a little bit too strong, and it's going to put them in a position that they're not going to be able to recover from. So they're going to need help. And fortunately, there are a lot of people out there that are proactive, that are entrepreneurial, that are in a financial position that can provide a solution.
Right.
Because those employees still need a job, and those patients still need a practice to go to. So I don't think it's going to be across the board, but there are going to be some merger and acquisition opportunities. There are going to be some practice acquisition opportunities. And I would anticipating it being a little bit more of a buyer's market coming out of this thing. So I think that the valuations and the price, and financially, I think it'll be really attractive, for the people that are in a position to acquire and merge and do some of those kinds of things. So I would keep my eye out, for those opportunities as they present themselves, because they will be there.
Yeah. And then tomorrow at 1:00? We're actually going to go over, for those of you who have applied for the SBA, you're going to bring your team back on. You're going to pay them the 10 to 12 weeks FMLA. If that is the case, for those of you who fall into that category, team members that fall into that category or want to be part of that category, tune in tomorrow at 1:00, and John and I are going to review some specific things that you can invest your time in right now that will support the business rebounding once the doors open back up. So right now is an opportunity for us to plant seeds for future gains. And so tune in tomorrow. It's at 1:00, right, John?
Yes.
Okay, it's at 1 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to cover all of the 5 business engines, various strategies within each of those business engines. You may take some, you may take them all, but we're going to provide them all to you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Awesome. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Any questions, drop them in the comments section of this video. I'm going to be dropping some additional resources, links to other videos and scheduled webinars in the comments of this video. This will also be available on our YouTube channel, along with all the other events that we're doing, all the other CE that's available. I'm uploading all that stuff to YouTube. If you're interested in any other complimentary CE opportunities, and that's the second reason that we're doing this, is not just to give us something else to focus on, but give us an opportunity to work on ourselves and our businesses while we're not able to work in the businesses. All of the events are on the event schedule on our Fortune Management Mid-South Facebook page. So be sure to check that out, and be sure to register for those if you're wanting to receive CE for them. I'm going to broadcast as many of them as I can live. Some of them I can't, but most of them I can. So be sure to check those out.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We will see you tomorrow.
All right. See y'all. Y'all have a great day.
Bye.